We got to do it out of fundraised money. And I think as some of y'all know, when I come here to meet on the library, I also come with my fundraising hat. And what I've done is tried to give them the best information to raise money. And we've done a pretty good job. They've done a great job of raising dollars. And the thing I've told them is that there's two more possibilities. Once we break ground, money comes again, because the people that didn't believe will believe. We will raise the money to landscape the exterior of this building to a level higher than what we need to, because we can get funds for it. We can raise money for furnishings, even though we have money for furnishings, by just simply giving people the opportunity to buy a piece of furniture. Realize that when you're in the fundraising business, if you've given us $100 4 years ago, that $100 is already paid. We can get another $100 because it's a new year. And that's what happens with fundraising. And that's something that is different. So my belief and my knowledge of this group is they have a fundraiser at the end of October. That's probably going to raise another $1,500, $2,000. They will continue to do that. I'll also tell you this. The price of this building, if you put it off for 2 years, you're going to pay out more to build this building than you're going to pay in personnel, staff, and operation in this building, because the price is going to be $150 a square foot, and you ain't add it up, that's another several $100,000, and that's a real number.
Well, I probably don't agree with you that it'll be that much more expensive in 2 years, because I don't think we're going to see interest rates move that much.
Well, I don't think either one of them do that. I think you're probably correct there. You're probably correct there.
You know, you can say, again, we're going to borrow cheap, and we're going to build cheap, but I don't see it. I don't see that situation taking place anytime soon. I mean, we have not seen the end of cuts. Again, and I'll go back to the school system. We're working on 2-year federal money, and they've cut it in half. So if anybody was that confident that the economy was going to come back, we wouldn't be worried about spreading 2-year federal money off into the school budget. And I'm reluctant. I mean, look at the assessed values. They didn't do the assessment tonight, but I went to the assessment meeting. I saw houses 25, 30, 35, 36%, 140-some% going backwards in assessed value, and that's my concern. It's not the library, it's the ability for us to pay. And that's what, and I think that's what everybody's just trying to convey. It's not nobody wants the library. It's can we afford the library in the current economic situation that we're in? And once we build it, can we afford to maintain it and man it? And I can't say that we can. The library took cuts from us last year and the year before. If you cut them this year, and we cut 10 other employees, how do we move forward? You have a building that's out of the ground and nobody in it. That's even worse. And that's my concern. It is not about a library.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr.
I have a question of Mr. Fincham. Is he still over there?
Yes.
When we approved Carmel Church Station, was there any money included in that proffer for the Dawn Library?
Oh, they've had their own.
There is $50,000, as I recall, related to library services that could be utilized for
Could be
Dawn.
utilized for the Dawn Library.
Yes, sir.
Let's see them break ground.
But I think isn't there a time frame that they have to pay that in?
I believe it was, it's either 60 or 90 days.
After approval?
Yes, sir.
After approval. So I don't care if they don't break ground.
It's within the next month or two.
They can not break ground. It's still over $50,000. You know, I think that is something that probably we need to set aside. And as Mr. Popowitz has said, we can use some of that money to help with the debt retirement over the next several years. So I don't know that you need to, if you've been counting on $50,000 to do something with, you probably don't need to count on it, to be honest with you, other than to help retire some of the debt. Had you been counted on it for anything? No. Good.
Okay, and I do believe that you know, the committee has some folks who have endowments and things that they are also working with to try to get, as they said, each year is a new year for those types of budget purposes, you know, for a business. So they've done good, I think, extremely well for this group to raise the amount of money they raised. But Absolutely, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Mrs. Brooks, can I ask you one more time to get up? And I promise this is the last time I ask you to get up. So if you could, just one last time. And not being the full math professor, I'm just going to try to do rough, fuzzy math. The library costs about $1 million, roughly, in that area. You raised $200,000 already in donations, so you basically raised 20% of the total fee. Do you recall what the Ladysmith Library, which was the last one we built, do you recall what that cost?
Well, that was profit to us for $1 million. But,
Right, but I mean, it was profit. I'm just trying to say, do you remember what it cost? Do you remember what it cost, Wayne?
It's about 130. Yeah.
And they raised 100,000 or something like that?
Roughly, yeah.
So you're kind of almost in the same ballpark?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just wanted to figure out where we were. That was the only thing I had for you. Thank you so much. And Mr. Wilson, I know you're sitting over there and we skipped over your project. How much local match was in your project? 180 or 200,000? It's a little more than that. Close to 150 now? 110? Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, how you like to proceed? The library board needs a response from us, and
I'll take your motion, Mr. Chairman. Chair's asked me to read the motion to provide funding for the Dawn Library in the amount of $700,000. This is whereas the Board of Directors of the Caroline Library advertised for bids a general contract for the construction of branch library owned by the county in the Dawn area. The library received bids from Howard Construction in the amount of $646,000. Howard extended the expiration until September 14th. And the board has applied for VRA funding. That will be granted in November. We move that the Board of Supervisors commit to provide funding for the Caroline Library and up to $700,000 for the purpose of building a library in Dawn, on the condition that such funds are only used for such purpose. That's something I would amend. So I'd accept that amendment. So that's debt retirement for the first year. Okay.
okay. Motion been made and properly second that we give the Board of Directors of Caroline Library authority to move forward, that the board will provide funding for the Dawn Library. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same.
Nay.
Then we have division. Go on individual. Ms. Popwitz, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mr. Akers? Aye. Mr. Seeley?
Nay.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
And the chair will abstain. And we do appreciate the library board, all your hard work and all your efforts, and we have the information that you need so you can proceed with your contract. All right. Next item, we need to look at item 7, RZ01 2008, ARC 207 LLC, Allen Shire applicant. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I placed on your desk this evening a revised staff report together with amended proffers and generalized development plan. Per the August board meeting, the application was deferred to tonight's meeting to address several issues raised by the board, as well as provide the opportunity for Mr. Thomas to talk to the applicant, to have some questions clarified that he had related to the application. Mr. Akers had specifically requested that we go back and talk to the sheriff and other departments that had not previously responded or who had expressed concerns with the application. Staff was able to meet with Sheriff Lippa and Director of Fire and Rescue Lehman last week to go over the application with them, and both of them have indicated that they are now in favor of the application based upon changes that I will discuss this evening, or clarification of issues that I'll discuss. One of the outstanding issues related to the application was the number of entrances and the level of service that had been discussed after the original application. Those restrictions were discussed with Sheriff Lippa, and based upon those restrictions on the number of entrances as well as the level of service commitment, he felt comfortable with the application, and his original concerns about the volume of traffic appear to have been addressed. The issue also arose, and the concept plan has been modified to show the, as well as the proffers, to show the limited number of entrances into the subject property. During our meeting with Mr. Thomas and the applicant, the question arose about the possibility of proffering a fire station location in this area, recognizing the issues and the concerns that the board has with the Belmont application. We did discuss with the applicant, and the applicant had indicated to us that they were willing to proffer a station site subject to it being a mutually agreed upon location between all parties. That would constitute a new proffer, which after the public hearing would necessitate another public hearing before the Board of Supervisors. Recognizing that there are some time limits and some other possible users for the property, staff posed a question to the county attorney's office whether we could split the application and go forward on 2 of the 3 parcels and come back to public hearing with that amended language on the 3rd parcel. And it's my understanding, based upon discussions with the county attorney, that yes, we could do that. And that has been discussed with the applicant. So the amendments that you have before you tonight would be to only rezone the portion of tax map 83-A-11 that is currently zoned rural preservation, and tax map 82-A-122A, subject to the concept plan and subject to the proffers related to those 2 properties. And we would come back at a future board meeting with a public hearing on tax parcel 82-A-121, which was the 3rd parcel that was originally included in the application. And I believe I have summarized that correctly, Mr. Thomas. And with that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have.
Any additional questions of Mr. Fincham?
I have a couple. And I guess I'll direct this at Mr. Fincham and see what we get for an answer. I understand that the applicant has currently or is pending a lawsuit with the state due to right-of-way issues and the way 652 came across. Is that true?
VDOT is part of the Route 652 relocation project, identified the right-of-way, which is under construction. And as I understand it, filed the certificate of take, which reflects their estimate of the value of the right-of-way necessary or that they acquired for the Route 652 project. It is my understanding that that value has been challenged by the applicant, and they are in the process of going through the appropriate mechanisms to establish a value that they feel is appropriate for that right-of-way.
Mr. Fincham, why don't you let the applicant answer the question?
Well, yeah, I was simply summarizing where we're at. But I think the question is to where it stands.
With anybody, and
Huh?
we don't, you know, we don't.
Well, I'm just not sure Mr. Fincham knows enough details to answer correctly, and that's where I was.
Yeah.
So
I've answered to where I
Well,
feel the
that's good.
comfort level is. Beyond that, where it exactly is at this point in time, and the applicant's take on that, I would defer to the
And
applicant.
I think
Okay.
having been involved with enough litigation on the county's part, we shouldn't even be discussing something that's third parties litigation that's not ours.
Well, I just think we need to be aware that, I mean, they're getting entrances and rezoning from this board, and I think that we need to, in good faith, be aware of what's going on, because we're making a decision that's later going to have an effect on the state when they go to litigate this, and we're, in good faith, giving entrances to a state road, and we're granting that with this special exception. Is that not true?
We are determining where we feel based upon negotiating with the applicant, where the appropriate entrance locations and number of entrances are based upon the zoning application.
And that's
and
our
our
purview as a board in terms of this whole rezoning. Is that not true?
I think that's a policy issue, Mr. Seeley. I understand that concern. What the impact is, I can't speak to that. But I understand the concern that you've raised.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Popowitz.
Yes, sir. In my own dealings, this is over a right-of-way take, and it's over a monetary issue. That is a very common thing for an for a person to do if they don't feel like they've gotten that full value of the take. It's not anything that I think is going to concern this board or this applicant or the application that's at hand. I think it's a very normal thing for a person to do when they feel like they haven't gotten the full value of their property. And it's not, when we did takes to the town, we fully expected people to do that to us.
And in fact, Mr. Chairman, it's happened to this board when we have looked at taking property for the wastewater treatment plant. They were going to sue us for taking the property. So it's something that happens everywhere. And again, I'm not going to make my decision on something between the applicant and VDOT. My decision is going to be based on how is it going to benefit Caroline County and the prospects that are going to come to Caroline County and the businesses that are going to come to Caroline County. That's what my decision is going to be based on.
Okay. That being said, we will move on. I just have a question. I would ask our attorney, can we hold that some other pending litigation can we hold that against, this rezoning?
Right, no, I mean, I think there have been enough comments from the board members that that's a separate issue between VDOT and the applicant related to compensation. It doesn't have anything to do with the rezoning of the property. So, you know, the physical location of, you know, the roads and access is addressed in the application. It's just the price VDOT's going to compensate the applicant for the take, and that really is beyond the scope of this board.
Right. Mr. Wilson, this property is next to the area, in the area vicinity where McKesson Corporation's coming?
Yes, sir.
And do we have some folks that you guys been collaborating with?
I think that's enough right there.
I would say that we have excellent prospects for that site.
Okay. I mean, I think that's just an important point. You know,
That is the point, Mr.
we just received 180 jobs, and if I can get another 150 more, it sounds good, but I think we just need to know that in our decision-making process.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, Mr. Vice Chairman, this is in your district.
Yes, it is. Before I do that, though, Mr. Fincham, the applicant is aware that it's the applicant's responsibility to run water and sewer to the rest of the property, and that site that we talked about for a potential fire station, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
By utility ordinance.
By utility
utilities have to be provided to this site.
Okay. I am, you know, and I'll first of all say to the applicant and everybody that's still here, just what I said to Mr. Seeley. If you're having a lawsuit between you and VDOT, I don't really have anything to do with that. I did meet with the applicant last week. They told me there was a prospect on the horizon very close. They even told me who it was, and I honestly can't remember who it is now if I wanted to tell. But there is a potential for more jobs coming right now, and the applicant has been willing to do some other things to help the county. So I'm going to rely on you, Mr. Fincham, to repeat the actual tax maps that we are going to approve if we approve those. But my motion would be to approve the rezoning on 2 of the 3 tax map parcels that are being requested by the applicant. And those parcels would be, again, Mr. Fincham,
83A11,
83A11,
82A122.
and 82-122. So that's my motion.
Can we, excuse me, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm just looking at the
doesn't show
the 83A, it doesn't look like it's,
That's why.
There was a boundary line adjustment
okay.
that occurred after the original zoning, so that the map number was corrected to.
Is in,
That's
has
the
been
number.
substituted for which one? There's 82A 122 part of 82A and 82A 122A.
It was originally part of, hold on, let me find it.
Mr. Shia, if you can help Mr. Fincham out.
It was originally part of 82A 122.
Right. That's the piece at the top.
Right, right. That's correct.
And that was the piece at the top that basically had the road change.
Right.
And
With
then-
McKesson,
Right.
there was a boundary line adjustment to add a portion of what was 82A 122 to parcel 11.
Right. Okay, that was the motion. Is there a second?
My second.
All right, motion made and proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. All right, motion carries. All right, next,
Let's skip that.
new business, first reading, 9, we can bring back, Mr. Fincham? You have time to bring that back, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 9A, Department of Fire and Rescue Emergency Management Issues. All 3 of them?
I'm not going to be the motion guy. Who's going to do the fire and rescue?
There's three separate.
Right.
3 separate votes, we can read them all and just do 3 separate votes, right?
Well, they're written out as
Three separate
Don't take
motions.
three
I'll just
separate votes.
read them one at a time.
All right.
I move the Board of Supervisors of Caroline County, Virginia, take the following actions with regard to the structure of the Department of Fire and Rescue and Emergency Management. 1, reinstate the captain classification and authorize the selection of a captain operations and a captain training. 2, approve the creation of 2 additional lieutenant positions. Approve promotional pay adjustments for the lieutenant and captain positions as recommended by staff, and abolish the existing training officer position.
Second.
Motion made and proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The next one down the wing.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Next motion.
I move the Board of Supervisors of Caroline County, Virginia, take the following action with regard to the uniform field providers in Caroline County Department of Fire and Rescue Emergency Management. Invoke the partial exemption under the Fair Labor Act, Standards Act, specifically Section 29 U.S.C. Section K207K. Convert to a 21-day, 159-hour work period as provided by Section 207K of the Fair Labor Act. I'm not done yet, almost. Adopt the salary adjustments as recommended by staff. D, stipulate that the base salary as provided in the salary adjustments for these positions cover up to 168 work hours per 21-day period. Increase leave annual rates at a maximum hour accrual as recommended by staff. And F, amend holiday pay policy for all uniform field providers as recommended by staff.
Second.
Okay, motion made and proper second. All those members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carried. Next motion.
I move that the Board of Supervisors of Caroline County authorized applicable overtime pay to employees as identified by potential. Is that potential? Supervision employees entitled to such additional pay. Fire supervised employees entitled to such authorized pay.
Fire suppression employees, sorry.
Oh, fire suppression. So, that's all right. Is entitled to as.
Entitled to such additional pay.
That's the motion.
I'll read from now on.
Second.
Well, that's
I'll
kind
type them
it
out,
wasn't
I
typed.
promise.
Oh.
Yeah,
Second.
it was.
Okay, board members clear on the motion? Like all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. All right. Motion carries. All right, Mr. Ashcraft, County Administrator's report has been provided to each one of you. You have his report, and that's it for this evening. Are there any closing comments, Mr. Popowitz?
No, sir, I have none.
Mr. Akers?
Mr. Chairman, I do have some closing comments, if you would allow me. First of all, I want to say that, the YMCA we've talked about, we're not requesting the funding in this borrowing in November. Doesn't mean that I don't support the YMCA, because I do support the YMCA. I think it's something that the county needs. I'm working with Newland right now on the proffers, which they have proffered to pay, whereas this particular facility, which will be owned by the county, will be paid for by profit funds. There have been comments tonight, and there have been comments in previous paper and editorial that the proffers have not been lived up to. I can assure anybody they can look at the proffer amounts that the proffers from Ladysmith Village and the Pendleton project have been lived up to. They talked about the park. Someone mentioned the park tonight. If they read the proffers, it says after the 300th home, then the park is to be built. Ladysmith Village does not have 300 homes in it. So the timeline or the trigger has not been met for the park to be built for the county on the western side of the county. When that trigger is met, then we will fully expect them to build the YMCA. I'm sorry, the park. But again, I just want it cleared up that nobody's coming asking for taxes to be raised or general fund tax dollars to pay for this building. That has never been the intention of myself or anybody else that has talked about the YMCA. It has been to be paid for through proffers, and that's the position I've taken all along, and it's a position I'm going to take in the future, is the fact that if we're able to work out those type of things, then the profit money will pay for the YMCA building. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Akers. Mr. Seeley?
Mr. Chairman, I have, I guess, one comment, and I saw that we were planning a business roundtable alumni meeting, and we haven't had a business roundtable in 2 years, and I guess I'm kind of confused why we would do an alumnus roundtable meeting, and I don't know if this is dinner or what it is, but I just don't see the need for this at this point in time with the situation that the county's in. So I just question why we were doing that, since we haven't had the business roundtable. And we do have the business appreciation dinner every year that the IDA provides. So I saw that sort of as synonymous.
And certainly, Cecilia, we hear your response, and you know, I think with all that is going on, I think it's very important that we continue to keep the pulse of our business community, not just once a year. I mean, you know, probably needs to be more frequent than, you know, twice a year. And I don't know if it's the pleasure of the majority of this board that we not do that. You know, I think we need to, you know, to let it be known. But we're working hard on economic development. Caroline County is a thriving business. You know, we're along the Golden Crescent. You know, we are where things are going to happen. You know, we're just not going to roll over and stop there. I'm not planning on it. Now, if that's what the board wants to do, let's stop. You know, let's just roll over and just do nothing. You know, these are just decisions we have to make. Now, if it's the priority of the majority of the board, if we not have that, I'll gladly ask the county administrator to cancel that. Is that the consensus of the board, that we not move forward with our alumni meeting with the business roundtable?
I have no problem with inviting business in and to get their idea as to what their thoughts are as what's going on in Caroline County and what needs to happen in Caroline County. That was the purpose of the business roundtable, was to get input from the various business owners and managers and executives to help the county in future planning. So if this gives us an opportunity to bring all of that group together, because it was probably about 3 or 5 years of business roundtable groups that we had, and if it's an opportunity to bring all those people back to the table to say, okay, have we met some of the expectations that you had? Have we met some of the items that you wanted us to address, and have we addressed those things? I think that's important. That's a very important issue and factor for business recruitment, as well as maintaining the businesses we have in Caroline County. I think it's a pretty well-known fact that most of the job creations, we're fortunate in Caroline from the standpoint we're getting McKesson, which is going to generate between 150 and 190 jobs. We're very fortunate about that. But most of the job creation in the state of Virginia and in most localities throughout the United States are from within and not from without.
Mr. Popowich, Economic Development Liaison.
Mr. Chairman, anything that gets our businesses pumped up and rolling, I'm all for. I think that I think it's a shame that we haven't had a roundtable in several years, and I think we need to continue that, especially with the advent of McKesson coming and the advent of the possibility of the train station coming in the next couple of years, and those businesses. I think that that's something that we're going to see more of, and probably see more on the private sector coming together and asking us to be a part of it. So no, I don't have a problem with that. I think we ought to have that. And
Vice Chairman,
get some input.
We are going to be dedicated to being a jobs board, and I think if we're going to do that, we're going to have to continue to meet with our business people, you know, and work with them and try to understand the things that they need so we can make them successful. So sounds like we'll proceed with that, Mr. Ashcraft. Mr. Vice Chairman, closing comments?
2 things real quick. Mr. Borshak wasn't here, but I've gotten some meat. So some questions about checking stickers at the convenience center sites again. Apparently, people can drive in with any kind of car and not have their sticker checked, and I'd just like to take care of that. Chief Lehman called me. I didn't get a chance to return his call, but I was aware of the Belmont fire insurance issues. Apparently, some insurance companies, for whatever reason, are arbitrarily deciding to cancel insurance in the Belmont area, and trust me, that's why we're trying to get fire and rescue sites. Even if I just have to put a truck over there, I'll have a station there soon. But we're gonna work on that. So we're gonna stay in touch and see what we can do there. I'll find out who the citizens are, and we'll be in contact. That was it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and the chair has no closing comments. We thank you all for being here. Motion to adjourn would be in order.
Second.
All right. Motion made and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.